Hi, I'm Pastor Dave, teaching evangelist with Lamb and Lion Ministries. All right, we are not to live in fear. We all know that. We are to live by faith. However, the elite have effectively used fear to control. Now, this is happening once again, but in a different manner. Remember the days of 2020 and panic buying when we couldn't find toilet paper of all things? Well, it seems those days are back. Across the country, people have been rushing to stores or going online to buy everything from iPhones to coffee to designer bags, all in anticipation of the recent imposed tariffs will be taken on their personal budgets. Recently, a White House official confirmed to CNBC that President Trump's latest executive order, hiking taxes on China from 84% to 125%. Now, that comes on top of the 20% fentanyl-related tariff that the president had previously imposed on China. So now in total, the U.S. tax rate on Chinese imports is now an amazing 145%. So this has caused reports on panic buying. And they're starting to come out. For example, in anticipation of the coming price hikes, there was a full-blown buying spree at Apple stores across the country. It's being projected that the cost to manufacture an iPhone could go up by hundreds of dollars in the coming months. One parent in Richmond, Virginia went out publicly and said he bought his 12-year-old daughter an iPhone 16. However, he plans to give it to her for Christmas, 8 months from now. Now, he was quoted in saying, "I have no idea what it will cost then. Nothing is certain, and that's the new normal," end quote. Yes, that might be the new normal. Many of our supply chain supplies cannot function without equipment, parts, or products that come from China. Again, according to CNBC, approximately 70% of the goods sold on Amazon come from China. And who of us does not receive boxes from Amazon? An Amazon executive was quoted saying its vast network of third-party sellers are now going to have to pass that cost on to consumers. It's now being predicted that if this trade war continues, it will be an even bigger economic shock than the pandemic was in 2020. So here is where some wisdom needs to be concerning the significance of Bible prophecy. Folks, we just need to understand the threat of economic sanctions. See, that threat of economic sanctions has always been one of the barriers that has made China think twice about invading Taiwan. But now, if the world's economies begin to fray even more, China may come to the conclusion that this is actually a perfect time to make a move on Taiwan. You see, this crisis with China is a far bigger deal than I think most people realize. And it could have some very serious unintended consequences. Biblically, we know there's going to be wars. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. These global taxes could open the door to these wars. Fear is causing people to panic buy. They're buying things like furniture, shoes, clothes, coffee, tea, and fruits like avocados. Do you know the U.S. imports 80% of its avocados, making them extremely vulnerable? Much of the coffee Americans drink, it's imported from Kenya, Colombia, and Brazil. Products like tea, well, they can't easily be grown in the United States because of the climate. Tea producers are explaining that you need high humidity and you usually need to be on a very high altitude. A lot of green tea is then grown in the coastal area of China, and black tea comes from India. There just may not be a United States option for tea. A large part of American furniture is also assembled abroad and could see large increases in costs. Like it or not, folks, our economy is a global economy. Financial advisors are only suggesting, if you have a used car that you rely on, you may want to make sure it is well maintained because with the cost of things going up, you may have to use it a little while longer than you may have originally planned. President Trump has also announced that he is closing a loophole The loophole of duty-free shipping. This exemption allowed orders under $800 to be duty-free, tax-free. That's why it's possible to get products directly from China and online pretty cheaply. U.S. Custom and Border Protection said that it processed more than 1.3 billion duty-free shipments in 2024, and that was up from the 1 billion worth of shipments in 2023. Chinese sellers routinely send small orders directly to U.S. customers to keep the shipments under the $800 limit. A Canadian-based business executive said that their company used to drive its products an hour to the U.S. border just to receive the advantage of duty-free shipping to their American customers. Recently, Forbes magazine did an online article explaining exactly what panic buying is. So this is their definition, quoting, "Panic buying is a state of erratic human behavior that can occur when an individual believes there's a real or perceived shortage of basic supplies upon which they rely. This fear or anxiety may lead to overspending, stockpiling, or hoarding," end quote. The article said this happens because people want to be in control. We want to be in control in uncertain times. And well, we do live in uncertain times. For those who are aware of the day in which we do live, let's ask the question, what is the difference between panic buying and disaster preparation? Meaning, how is prepping different than panic buying? Well, a secular professor at Northeastern University offers this answer, quote, "Disaster preparation refers to purchases made to keep your family alive, while panic buying could be associated with purchases meant to keep your family comfortable." Do you want to keep your family alive or comfortable? When preparing for a disaster, people want to ensure that they have access to a broad list of items for a certain period of time. Another recent survey from the State University of New York, again, a secular group, said there are many reasons people find themselves with a cart full of toilet paper. They say it's uncertainty, it's fear, it's anxiety, a lack of trust, the perception of a crisis, a means of coping, and a means of gaining control are all said to be potential reasons for panic buying behavior. The decision to panic buy is anchored in others' behaviors. And you become fearful that if you're not making the first move, if you don't go first, or if you don't join the herd, you won't have the access to the goods, products, or services you feel you want and need. Family, friend, coworkers, neighbors, they may all feel a need to panic buy because they're fearful. They're fearful what the future holds. But let's understand our provider, our protector, is the Lord Jesus Christ. We are told not to live in fear, but to live with faith. This means having a clear understanding of the days in which we do live and knowing what to do. Yes, you protect your family. Yes, you prepare your family. Put away the items that you need, but let me also encourage you to have a biblical outlook and be thinking, what can I do to help my coworkers or my neighbors? If we can help somebody with a physical need, like food or healthcare supplies, maybe, just maybe, that will lead to having the opportunity to show them the spiritual need and meeting those spiritual needs they may not even be aware that they have. Let's live in a way that honors God and lead people in faith, not fear, so that we can look up with joy and say, Maranatha, Lord Jesus.